Chapter 14. Dax drove the mountain road toward the Smith place to pick up John and drive him to Brookston, about 30 miles away, to purchase a Model T truck with a stake rack for the ranch. Once in the car and on the road to Brookston, the two men discussed their upcoming cattle drive and the supplies they would need. John warned Dax of the large population of grizzly bears and the possibility of encountering some while driving the cattle near the Mission Mountains on the way to Conifer Cliffs. After standing in the hot sun, kicking tires, and negotiating the best price, Dax paid the Ford dealer for the truck, and John drove it home. With the help of his family, John loaded groceries, pots and pans, bedrolls, saddles, tack, and everything they thought they would need to drive the cattle from the south end of the Bitterroot Valley to Conifer Cliffs. Colm and John drove the 250 cows and calves at their home place into a pasture where they would need no attention for the next month. Meanwhile, Dax and Polly loaded their Chevy with all the supplies they would also need for the cattle drive. This will be a new experience for both of us. We'll see what kind of camp cook you are, Dax exclaimed, placing a frying pan in a wooden apple crate. I can cook outside on an open fire. Don't you worry. I did a lot of it before I left Ireland, Polly stated confidently. Yeah, but there won't be any leprechauns here to help you, Dax smiled. You don't know where I keep my leprechauns, Mr. MC Catron, Polly giggled. Well, I don't suppose I do, Mrs. MC Catron, Dax winked. Look at that new truck, Emily, Otto Langford remarked to his wife as they drove past the Smith's ranch house. I have to look it over and talk to John. Yes, let's stop. I'd also like to catch up with Elaine. I am so glad their life has turned for the better as of recently, Emily remarked. Pretty fancy stake rack you've got there, John. Otto climbed out of his Model T touring car, walked over, and shook the rack on the sides of the flatbed truck. MC Catron never ceases to amaze me, John exclaimed. We drove his new Chevrolet to Brookston yesterday, and he bought it for the ranch. I didn't think he would buy a brand new one, but he said he wanted me to be able to work on the ranch and not spend time working on an old truck. I hate to be nosy, but where did he get all his money? Otto asked. He's pretty tight-lipped about that, but as long as he keeps spending it on things that help my family and me, I'm not going to ask him any questions. He and his money are the best thing that's happened to us in a long time. John smiled. You had a rough go for a while, John. I'm glad things are starting to work out for you. Nice truck, Otto remarked, walking around it, kicking the tires. Emily, please come in out of the hot sun, Elaine invited. John brought home some lemons from Brookston yesterday. Let's make some cold lemonade for everyone. I don't have any ice, but the spring water is pretty darn cold. Otto stood in the shade of a tall ponderosa pine tree, observing the pile of camping supplies. Where are you going? It looks like you're moving away. The boys are loading the truck to go on a cattle drive. Dax bought 3 bunches of cows and 8 horses down in the Bitterroot, and we're loading the truck with bedrolls and groceries so we can drive them home, John explained. Colm, put all the groceries up in front and the bedrolls in the back where we can offload them every night. This is going to be a Model T chuck wagon. Okay, Dad. Maybe Otto wants to play catch with my bedroll. Colm threw a tied-up roll of blankets at Otto. Otto caught the bedroll deftly. You little poop, he laughed, throwing the bedding on the truck bed, then giving chase to Colm across the barnyard. You can't catch me anymore, Otto. Colm giggled, running as fast as he could. The hell I can't, Otto hollered, running behind him. I swear those two can't quit teasing each other. Emily smiled at Elaine. At 6 feet, 7 inches, 230 pounds, Otto returned easily, carrying a kicking, squirming, skinny 14-year-old boy over his shoulder. Want to see what's at the bottom of the water trough? Otto asked, holding Colm over the trough by the seat of his pants and the nape of his neck. With arms flailing, Colm splashed Otto in the face with the cold water. Otto let go, and Colm dropped into the trough, splashing and gurgling to stand up. Look out, Otto, Colm blurted excitedly. Your car is rolling away. When Otto looked toward his car, Colm threw a bucket of water on him, jumped out of the trough, and ran toward the barn. You're cruising for a bruising, but it sure is nice to cool off on such a hot day. Otto grinned, wringing out his shirt. We'll sell him to ya for 2 bits, Samantha giggled. I think you better keep him, Otto smiled. Quinn stood quietly, sipping the lemonade, seeing no humor in his brother or sister. Have you ever been to the Bitterroot? Emily asked Elaine. No, but I have heard how beautiful it is, Elaine replied. Need me to do anything while you're gone? Otto asked John. Might look to see if the cows are okay, but I see no reason why they wouldn't be. They're all in this pasture close to the house. John pointed. I'll run off anybody I see here. You don't need to share your place with hobos or squatters. Yeah, that's for sure, John commented, leading Otto to a high place behind the house so they could see the pasture where the cows grazed. I don't think anything will need to be done, but if something breaks the fence down, it will need to be fixed. And if anything gets out, it will need to be gathered back up. I sure appreciate you guys helping us out. You have always helped us any time we needed it, John. So just enjoy getting out of here for however long it takes. Everything will be okay here, Otto said as they walked back to the front of the house. Let's get the truck packed and get down to Dax's and see when he wants to leave, John instructed his family. No more horsing around, Cole. We've got work to do. Yeah, Dad, it would be awful to have any more fun, wouldn't it? Colm grinned as he walked by Otto with a box full of supplies, stepping on Otto's toe. Darn kid, needs his butt kicked, Otto muttered. He's all yours, Otto. I've already worn out 3 pairs of boots trying to straighten him out, and he's still a pain in the rear, John joked endearingly. Don't worry, he'll get what's coming to him. Everybody does, Otto chuckled. Pots, pans, groceries, a little wood for the fire, an axe and a saw to cut more, bedding, saddles, blankets, bridles, ropes, halters, a change of clothes for everyone, fresh water. What else do we need? Elaine said. Dax will have more groceries, and he said we will be able to get more stuff along the way. I think he wants to stop in Missoula, John replied. Let's get going. Don't worry about a thing here, Otto said as the Smith kids jumped onto the back of the truck and began arranging comfortable places to sit in the pile of bedding. Go ahead, Otto. We'll give you and Emily a few minutes for the dust to settle before we take off behind you, John offered. Good idea, Otto replied, setting the spark and throttle and walking to the front of his Model T to give it a crank. It usually starts on the second crank, Otto stated, giving it a pull. POP, the T sputtered. One more, Otto said. He pulled again to hear the 4 cylinders chugging in unison. See ya when I see ya, Otto hollered, backing out onto the dusty road. John cranked his truck. It took on the first pull. He raced to regulate the spark and the throttle to a smooth idle. Everybody ready? John asked, slipping into the driver's seat next to Elaine. Hearing a chorus of yeses, he pressed his left foot on the middle pedal, cranked the steering wheel as hard as he could to the right, and backed out onto the road. John let up on the middle of the 3 pedals, pushed the left pedal down, and started forward. He gripped the emergency brake lever, let it slide fully forward, and let off the pedal. The truck reached a speed of 15 miles per hour. Pushing halfway down on the left pedal and pressing on the brake pedal with his right foot, the truck stopped. To go faster, John pushed the 2-speed Ruxel axle lever forward, took his foot off the brake, and pushed the left pedal down, and they started again. John let his foot off the left pedal, shifting it into second gear, and adjusted the spark and the throttle on opposite sides of the steering column. Now, they were racing over 20 miles an hour. Slow down, honey, Elaine begged. You're scaring me. We have a long way to go, and we have to go fast to get there, John hollered over the engine noise. Go, Dad, go, Colm yelled from the back. Samantha giggled as Quinn rolled his eyes at his silly brother and sister. When they pulled up in front of Dax and Polly's house, Dax was loading the back seat of his car with supplies. Polly should be right back. She went to the grocery store to get some last-minute things. I told her we could stop at a better store in Missoula, but she still felt the need to go shopping here, Dax said. Look out, Laura. There's a herd of turtles chasing you, Colm yelled at Laura Dyson as she walked down the street. Laura ran and jumped into the back of the truck. She tried to tickle Colm, who was buried in the pile of bedding. Don't you ever run out of crazy things to say, Colm? She laughed, showing her deep dimples. Come on and go on a cattle drive with us, Laura, Colm said, pulling on her arm. It's bad enough to have to go to school with you, Colm, she replied, pushing on his flat, pudgy nose. You better be nice to me, or I'll kiss you, Laura. Right here, while everyone is watching, Colm threatened. You, Laura screamed, pulling away, wishing he would when no one was watching. Let me go, Colm Smith, she screeched. Want me to help you, Laura? Samantha asked. Sure, Laura answered. Both girls sat on him and tickled opposite sides of his rib cage. Looks like that girl loves him, doesn't it, John? Dax remarked. Kind of looks like it, John chuckled. No way, Laura tried to convince them as she jumped out of the truck. That Cole. I don't know what to do with him, his mother declared, shaking her head. Looks like he knows how to have fun, Dax smiled. Oh no, here comes Polly, Colm hollered. Just so you know, I could beat up every boy on my block, Polly teased, peering between the boards on the steak rack into Colm's eyes. And I can beat you up too, you little hellion. No, Colm screamed. Polly's going to beat me up. Help. I'll save it till later, but trust me, it will happen, Polly assured him, winking at Elaine. I hope you do. He needs it. You ready to hit the road? Dax asked John. Yep, let's do it. John set his throttle and sparked where he thought the four-banger was most likely to start and spun the crank. Dax pushed his starter button, and the two motored down the road toward Missoula, a little more than an hour and a half away. I need to teach you how to drive the new truck, John remarked to Elaine, pointing out the various levers and pedals. You'll have to drive it home behind the herd. I'll try, but I'm not going to drive fast like you do, she exclaimed. I can't even start to keep up with Dax, John remarked, pulling down the throttle as far as it would go and adjusting the spark to the smoothest running position. I think he's driving slowly so he doesn't leave us behind. In Missoula, Dax bought gas for both vehicles and filled the extra gas cans they carried. They shopped at a well-stocked grocery store where Polly and Elaine purchased a few more items. I have never been in a store with such a complete inventory, Elaine observed. I guess I am spoiled, Polly smiled. In Chicago, you can buy literally anything. The only problem is having enough money to pay for it. The women bought apples, oranges, and fresher potatoes than they could buy in Conifer Cliffs. They also scanned the store for future reference, knowing they would return. Where do you want to spend the night? John asked Dax. Let's drive for another hour or so, then look for a good place to camp for the night, Dax replied. I think we can stay all night next to the Bitterroot River at Quigley's place down by Victor. That's the place where I bought 200 of the cows we are going to trail home. We'll be going back there in a few days to brand them. I think that's about halfway to Darby from here. Sounds like you've got a plan. You lead, and I'll follow, said John. The late afternoon sun set over the Bitterroots when Dax and his crew turned off the highway and drove east on a county road, ending at the Quigley Ranch on the west bank of the Bitterroot River. Ras Quigley and his two sons finished their day's work stacking loose hay in a big, red barn using a team of Percherons and a Jackson fork. Dax, you made it back, Ras greeted, shaking Dax's hand. Good to see you again, Ras. This is John Smith, his wife Elaine, his daughter Samantha, and his two sons, Quinn and Cole, Dax introduced. Good to meet you all. These are my two sons, Jim and Thomas. Samantha gave Thomas a shy smile. Tall, with dark brown eyes and chiseled cheekbones, Thomas was only a few years older than she was. We need a place to camp for the night. We're going to Darby in the morning to brand the cows we're buying there. And we'll be back in a few days to brand the cows we are buying from you. After that, we plan to go up to Florence and brand that bunch. After they have some time to heal, we'll go back to Darby and start trailing that bunch north. Put them together with the bunch we got from you and trail them to Florence until we have our whole herd together. Then we'll trail them all home. Do you have a place by the river we can set up camp for tonight and when we come back through? Dax asked. Sure, just follow this road. See that grove of trees down by the river? Quigley said, pointing. That's a good spot. There's a well with a hand pump and good shade. I think you will like it there. My wife Jill took a liking to your wife last time you were here. Perhaps we can visit later this evening, if you don't mind. Please do, Dax replied. It did seem like Polly and Jill made a connection. Dax led the way to the camping spot, parking away from the center so John could back the Model T up near the fire pit where the truck bed could be used as a table for food preparation. This is a beautiful spot. I'll get a fire started so the gals can start cooking. Everybody, lay out your bedrolls before it gets too dark, Dax suggested. John and Dax hung the cast iron cauldron of water over the fire, while Colm split wood and Elaine added the chopped stew ingredients. As the stew boiled, Elaine opened a gallon can of Alberta Freestone peaches for dessert. Polly set a Dutch oven filled with bread dough near the fire. Colm packed the buck saw to a dry lodge pole pine log and began cutting off rounds for the morning fire, while Quinn dragged his bedroll off in the trees by himself and laid down. Did you see how handsome Thomas was? Samantha whispered to Polly. Yes, and I also noticed how he made you act. It was very obvious you were attracted to him, Polly whispered back. And he to you. Don't tell anybody, Samantha said, her face reddening. Everybody already knows, Polly giggled. Your mom winked at me when she saw both of you look at each other, and Dax mentioned it to me on our drive down here. Was it really that obvious? Asked Samantha. Yes, it was, but that's okay. It's nature. I remember the first time I saw Dax. He caught me staring at him and came over to talk to me. I'm so glad he did. I'd still be in Chicago thinking about him if he hadn't. Have you ever had a boyfriend? Polly asked. No, but I think it's time I had one. Samantha's dimples deepened. It quite possibly is, Polly smiled. You are a pretty young lady, and boys will notice you. Just be careful and take your time. There's no hurry. You'll have many to choose from, but don't make a decision too quickly. Thanks, Polly. I would be so embarrassed to talk to my mom about this. Your mom would understand. She was your age once too, you know, Polly said. Yeah, Mom and Dad were married when she was only a year older than I am now. She probably looked at your dad the same way you looked at Thomas, so she knows what's happening. Don't be afraid to talk to her, or you can talk to me if you need a friend. It's just easier to talk to you, Polly, Samantha whispered. I understand. Polly smiled as she hugged Samantha. What's going on over here? A secret conversation? Asked John, walking up to the back of the truck. You girls wouldn't be talking about that Quigley boy who took Samantha's breath away, would you? He was really cute, Dad. Samantha's face turned bright red. I can't believe I said that. It's okay, sweetheart. It's nature. My little girl is growing up. John gave his daughter a squeeze. Yes, she is, Elaine commented with obvious pride. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom. Samantha blushed. Want me to tell him you love him? Colm asked excitedly. This is one time you need to just shut up and stay out of it. Do you understand me? John said sternly. Yes, Dad, I understand. Colm replied, knowing his limits for this subject had been established. Samantha was strikingly beautiful. Her blonde hair flowed past her shoulders, framing her face's flawless, peachy skin. Thin brows and long lashes accented with light hazel eyes. High cheekbones fell into a square jawline that tapered to a rounded chin, under thin, petite lips that wore a nearly constant smile. She was 5 feet, 7 inches tall, with a tiny waist, long legs, and perky breasts. At 18 years old, she was like a beautiful rosebud starting to open. Everyone knew Thomas Quigley would come to the river camp for another look. Soon, Elaine called out, "I think the stew is done." "I think the bread is done too." Polly lifted the lid on the Dutch oven and peeked inside. "Dig in, John," Dax urged. "I'll fix your plate, honey," Elaine offered. "Thanks, dear." John scratched his stump. Small talk ensued around the campfire as the group reminisced about the day's journey. None of the kids had ever been this far away from home, and Elaine and John hadn't traveled together since coming west from Pittsburgh with the Dysons and several other families when Samantha was a baby. They were all enthralled with the natural beauty of the Bitterroot Valley. "Is everybody full?" Elaine asked. "There is still a little stew and bread left. If no one wants it, I'll clean it up," Colm said eagerly. "Makes sense to me as you're growing the fastest," John remarked. Colm scraped the bottom of the cauldron and gobbled the last piece of bread. Elaine filled 7 bowls with the peaches and passed them around. "You all need to thank Dax for your dinner," she instructed her family. "Don't worry about that, Elaine. I need to feed my crew so they can work hard," Dax reasoned. "Speaking of working hard, it seems like everyone pitched in to fix dinner except Quinn. So Quinn, you need to do the dishes," his father commanded. "I help," Quinn protested. John's look cut through his objections. Quinn rolled up his sleeves, obediently carried the pan of hot water from the fire to the back of the truck, and washed the dishes. Samantha carried another bucket of warm water, poured it into a wash pan, rinsed, dried, and arranged the dishes on the back of the truck to accommodate breakfast preparation in the morning. "Here comes company." Dax pointed to a car coming down the lane from the Quigley house. The Chevy touring car stopped in the camp, and 4 people emerged. "Hello again," Thomas said shyly, looking at Samantha. "Hello," she returned, staying close to Polly. "It's so good to see you again, Jill. This is Elaine Smith," Polly introduced. Ras and Jim migrated toward Dax, Colm, and John. Quinn joined the men. "Did you bring any fishing poles?" Ras queried. "No, we didn't give that any thought at all," Dax replied. "Oh yes, we did," John interrupted. "From all the fish stories I've heard, I wouldn't go to the Bitterroot without my fishing pole and fly book. Some big rainbow trout bite this time in the evening." Ras pointed toward the river. "Let's walk over there." John retrieved his fishing gear from the pile in the truck bed, and the men walked the short distance to the river. Thomas invited Samantha to follow as his dad showed John a few of his favorite places to land a fly. Within 20 minutes, John landed 3 trout. Thomas lured Samantha to walk with him further up the river to a place where they could talk and get to know each other. "Can you skip rocks?" Thomas asked, looking for a flat rock on the riverbank. "Yes, I can," she said, picking up a small flat rock and hurling it toward the water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. "I'll bet you can't beat that many skips," she grinned. "Well, I guess you can skip rocks," he exclaimed, throwing his rock towards the river. 1, 2. "Darn it, only 2. Want me to teach you how to do it?" She giggled. "I know how to do it," Thomas said, smiling at her. "Doesn't look like it to me," she teased, throwing another 6-bouncer and laughing. "You're trouble. This is fun." "It is. But let's go back down to where Dad is fishing," Samantha urged, feeling nervous to be alone with Thomas. "We can't skip rocks where he is fishing," replied Thomas, trying to keep her away from the crowd. "Let's go back. It's starting to get dark," she said, leading the way. "Are you scared of being in the dark with me?" teased Thomas. "No, because I can run faster than you can." Samantha took off running down the riverbank. "You have answers for everything, don't you?" Thomas hollered, running after her. They ran until Samantha reached her dad, who was putting up his fishing gear. "How many fish did you catch, Dad?" Samantha asked. 12 nice ones we can cook for breakfast. Did you have a nice walk?" "I tried teaching Thomas to skip rocks," but he didn't do very well. I did okay. You just got lucky, Thomas laughed. I guess you'll have to have another chance to show me then, Samantha giggled. I hope I have another chance, Thomas grinned. Look at the full moon coming up. It's so big and golden, Samantha replied. Let's join everybody over by the fire. The whole gang visited around the fire until bedtime. Dax invited the Quigleys to return for flapjacks, bacon, eggs, and trout in the morning. Samantha watched the full moon from under a small pine tree until long after midnight, feeling something she had never felt before. Thomas stared out his bedroom window at the same moon with the same thoughts until the night stole his consciousness. Cole woke to the sound of Dax chopping wood, John starting the morning fire, and Elaine beating flapjack batter against a tin bowl. Polly sliced bacon off the freshly smoked side of pork purchased in Missouri. I think Sam got swept off her feet last night, Elaine whispered to Polly. I think so, too, but I think she may like Lingo Brisky's boys, Kyle or Dawn, whom I met when Dax brought Rennie, Marta, and me down here to look for cows. We'll see what happens when we get to their place in Darby this afternoon. She's a pretty girl, and I think she will realize she can choose from many boys before this trip is over, Polly shared. If she chooses, I hope she chooses a good one. I want her to have a happy life. Well, Elaine, I think she may need some help with that process, so just be there for her. She talked to me a little yesterday because she was too shy to talk to you. You might need to break the ice a little so she feels comfortable talking to you, Polly advised. I think the only boys she knows are the ones she went to school with, many of whom have moved away. This is a new experience for her, and probably for the boys in the Bitterroot as well. I'll open up to her and let her know she can talk to me, thinks Polly. Quinn continued to sleep. John was the only one who could get Quinn up because he knew he had only a few minutes until cold water would be dumped on his face if he didn't rally when his father called him. The Quigley's car chugged through the morning fog, and Samantha hurried to freshen up for Thomas with cold water from the well. The moon lingered, reminding her of her romantic thoughts the night before. Finally, the sun peeked over the Sapphire Mountains. The crowd gathered around the crackling fire, smelling the mingling aromas of smoke, bacon, and eggs frying in hot grease. Dax showed off his skills, throwing flapjacks high into the air and landing them back in the pan with ease, much like a professional chef. The trout would soon be cooking. By 7:30, the Quigley boys headed home to start their day in the hayfield, and the MC catering crew started packing up their camp to be on their way to Darby. All the goodbyes were easy except for Samantha and Thomas, but there was some comfort to both of them in knowing they would see each other again in a few days. 30 miles up the Bitterroot, Lingo Brisky's ranch lay in the morning shadow of the Sapphires just outside Darby. The MC catering crew turned onto a rail-fenced lane leading to a big, red barn and a white, two-story house with a screened-in porch and 3 dormer windows above. Met by a surly Australian shepherd biting at their wheels, they slowed. Kyle Brisky's dapple gray, 3-year-old gelding spooked when the Chevy and Model T stopped. Kyle reined the gray back on track and continued to trot around the round corral. Have you got the buck out of him yet? Dax hollered from his car. I've got the buck out of all 8 of the ones you bought, returned Kyle. Your cowboys won't have any fun with such gentle horses. Dax stepped out of his car against the will of the protesting Aussie. Kyle pulled his horse to a stop. Jeff won't bite. He's just looking after his home. It's safe for everyone to get out. Kyle, this is John Smith and his boys Quinn and Cole, Dax introduced. Glad to meet you all. Kyle nodded his head from the center of the corral astride his horse. Where do you have the rest of the horses? Dax asked. I want to show them to John. They're all in the pasture behind the barn, but 20 other horses are in the pasture with them. Kyle pointed to a grassy pasture lined by cottonwoods. Do you have a good place to set up a camp for a few days while we round up the cows and brand them? Dax asked. Dad and Don will be back in a little while. You'd better talk to him about that. I'm just his horse trainer. Kyle grinned. I'll show John and the boys all the horses then, Dax replied. I'm through with this one for today. I'll go with you. I should probably separate all of yours so you can catch them easier. Let me grab some halters and a bucket of oats, and you guys can help me. Kyle tied the gray to the hitching rack in front of the barn and helped Dax and Colm catch the other 7 horses and lead them into the corral. Here comes Dad and Don with another load of hay. Kyle pointed down the lane. Lingle Brisky and his son, Don, jumped down from the wagon load of loose hay. Hi, Lingle. Hi, Don. Dax greeted. Come over here and meet everyone. Just a minute, I'll get my wife, so we won't have to go through the ritual more than once, Lingle hollered, trotting toward the house. Returning with his wife, Annette, everyone was introduced to each other. Why don't you just camp here close to the house, and all the women can cook together? We can use our time getting your cattle branded instead of tending to a camp, Lingle suggested. We don't want to impose on you, replied Dax. I would love to have the female company, Annette said. We don't get much company down on this end of the valley. It will be fun. Then, that's what we'll do, Polly said enthusiastically. Don unhooked the team from the hay wagon, took the harnesses off, and turned them out. Let's saddle up and get the cows in a close pasture this afternoon, and we'll be able to get them all branded tomorrow, Lingle said. We can all ride your horses to make sure Kyle has them ready to go. I want the wildest one, Colm said. I was going to ride him, Kyle replied. But if you want socks, he's all yours. The 7 men and boys saddled up and rode over the ridge to a faraway pasture. Kyle opened the gate with Jeff at his heels. Gather all the cows and bring them here, Lingle directed. When we have all of them in this corner, we can open the gate, and Dax and I can count them as they come through. Then we can trail them down to the close pasture, where we can get them into the corral quickly in the morning. Half of the crew rode with Kyle and Jeff, heading east to the brushy draws. The rest rode north with Lingle. Together, they surrounded the entire field. Each time Jeff bound into a brushy draw, he scared out bunches of hidden cows. Within 3 hours, the cowboys had gathered the cows to the agreed fence corner. Lingle opened the gate. John, Dax, and Lingle took their positions to count the cows as they came through the gate. Kyle led the herd back to the close pasture, while Quinn and Colm stayed in the back and pushed them slowly through the gate to ensure the count would be accurate. With the counting completed, the crew drove the cows to the pasture near the corral in preparation for tomorrow's branding. I love this little sorrel, Colm commented as he and Kyle dismounted at the barn. He has a lot of life and never slows down. The more he's ridden, the better he'll get, Kyle noted. All of them are good horses, but this buckskin is my favorite. He has such a long, comfortable stride, Don said, patting his horse on the neck. How was yours, Quinn? John inquired. Just another horse, Quinn drawled sleepily. I like the one I rode. John rubbed the blaze on his face. He could become a good friend. I like the one I rode too. What's the one that stayed in the corral like Kyle? Dax asked. He's a good one too. You should ride him in the morning, Kyle answered. Good idea. Dax threw his saddle over the top rail on the corral, piled his blankets, wet side up on top, and hung his bridle on the saddle horn. Let's put all your horses in the pen at the end of the corral so they have grass and water. It's a little pen so that we can catch them easily in the morning, Lingle said. The next few minutes were spent putting tack away and turning out the horses. Then, the group migrated across the barnyard to the sprawling green lawn in front of the house. The women had filled a table with cold mint tea and snacks. Kyle and Colm sat on the grass, talking about the horses. Samantha, who had just fallen in love with Thomas the night before, realized that Kyle and Dawn were also interesting to her. The 3 families pitched in together and cooked a BBQ beef dinner with mashed potatoes, gravy, and collard greens from Annette's garden. After dinner, all the kids played cards while the adults smoked and talked politics. At daylight, the women prepared eggs, fried potatoes, and bacon. Kyle, Dawn, and Colm wrangled the horses while Quinn walked around, rubbing his eyes, waiting for his breakfast. After breakfast, the cowboys mounted up and filled the corral with cattle, separating the cows from their calves. Then, they ran all the cows down a narrow wooden chute and branded them. The calves were too small to be branded in the chute and too big to handle by hand. They all had to be roped by the head and hind legs and held on the ground. Colm, Kyle, and Dawn roped, and Dax and Lingle held the calves' heads down on the ground, taking the rope from around their necks so they wouldn't choke and securing it around their front feet so the ropers could stretch them out for John to brand. They bawled loudly when the hot branding iron sizzled their skin through the hair on their ribs. The mounted boys only got dirty from the dust in the dry corral as they didn't get off their horses. But Lingle and Dax wrestled the calves on the dirty, dusty ground and occasionally slid through runny, green cow shit on their hands and knees to do their job. John became more agitated as the morning progressed, wondering where in the hell Quinn had sneaked off to. The women provided a lunch feast at noon. Elaine realized John wanted to raise hell with Quinn, so she interceded, telling him Quinn had been helping in the kitchen all morning. John didn't like it but took his wife's advice and didn't cause a scene. The men rested for the remainder of the lunch hour and then returned to work. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the crew had branded a DX on the left ribs of 150 cows and calves. Dax paid Lingle, and the herd now belonged to him. Another banquet was spread on a table under a giant oak that evening. The tired, dirty cowboys chowed down dinner and then proceeded to the river to bathe. Kyle and Dawn flipped a coin to determine who would get to ask Samantha to go for a walk that evening. Kyle won the toss, so he took Samantha to the pasture to introduce her to all the horses. Then, he showed her dog tricks he taught Jeff. Under the stars, everyone crawled into their beds and quickly fell asleep, except Samantha. As Samantha gazed at the moon, she knew she had much to learn and plenty of time to do so. They would leave here in the morning to gather and brand the cows at the Quigley place. Little did she know, Dax hired Kyle and Dawn to join the drive and help Colm ride the horses to Quigley's. Long before daylight, Kyle, Dawn, and Colm saddled their horses. After a quick breakfast in the camp kitchen, they were trotting off to Quigley's. They ponied one extra horse beside the ones they rode, trotting alongside the roadway going north. You guys will have some competition when you get to Victor. I think Thomas Quigley is in love with Samantha, Colm jested. Are you guys going to invite him into your coin toss tonight? You little shit. You weren't supposed to know about the coin toss, Kyle grumbled. I won it, and it applies to tonight too. Bullshit. That was only for last night, Dawn protested. And piss on this Thomas guy. I'll agree with you there, but I already won the coin toss, Kyle defended. And you better not ever say anything about it to anybody, he glared at Colm. I'll save it in case I ever have to blackmail either of you, Colm chuckled. By noon, Dax and John caught up with the boys and stopped for a quick sandwich. Kyle sat on the back of the truck next to Samantha as close as she would let him. Colm pointed to him and giggled. What's he laughing about? Samantha asked Kyle. He's just being goofy, Kyle said, throwing a piece of bread at him. Kyle had to relieve himself, and when he came back, Dawn was sitting next to Samantha, telling her jokes and making her laugh. Colm pointed at Kyle and laughed at him again. You boys better get going. You still have at least 10 miles to go, John ordered. Want to ride with us, Samantha? Dawn asked. You can ride Kyle's horse, and Kyle can ride with Dax. You boys need to get going now, John commanded, understanding what was happening. Samantha is a popular girl, Dax grinned at John. It's kind of fun, Dax, Samantha interjected. Just don't have a runaway, John warned. Let her enjoy the attention, Elaine remarked. She can enjoy all the attention she gets as long as I can see her, John grumbled. Dax laughed. Come on, Dad. She's all grown up. She's grown her wings, and she will fly whether you want her to or not. The three women and Dax laughed. John tipped his hat back, scratched his forehead, and said, "I suppose, but we don't need to hurry it. It seems as though she has at least 3 to pick from. That should keep her safe for a while," Polly said matter-of-factly. "Yeah, I suppose," John chuckled, nodding his head. By 2 in the afternoon, the MC Katrin outfit began setting up camp on the riverbank at the Quigleys, where they camped 3 nights before. The riders soon arrived. "We'd better let the horses rest until morning. The cows are already in a small pasture near the corral, so we don't need to gather them," John informed his crew. Polly and Elaine walked the short distance to the Quigley house and invited them to dinner at the river camp. Jill Quigley was happy to come and brought a pail of fresh strawberries from her garden, the shortcake she had just baked, and heavy cream from their milk cow. Kyle and Don Brisky, the new additions to the MC Katrin outfit, fit in perfectly at the festive dinner party on the river. Kyle performed rope and dog tricks to entertain the group. That prompted Thomas Quigley, still a bit of a city boy, to ask Kyle to show him how to handle a rope, which allowed Dawn to spend time close to Samantha. "You're doing pretty well for the guy who lost the coin toss," Colm whispered into Doe's ear. Dawn chuckled. "I've got to do something while those guys are showing off." Jim Quigley and Quinn struck up a friendship and headed off to the river, where Jim showed Quinn how to fly fish. When morning came, the Quigley boys saddled their horses along with Kyle, Dawn, and Colm and drove the 200 pairs of cows and calves into the corral. Since Kyle and Dawn were experienced ropers and Colm was not far behind them, they roped while Ras Quigley, his boys, and Quinn worked on the ground, holding the calves down for John and Dax to brand. "Looks like Quinn made friends with a boy who knows how to work instead of hanging around the house," John commented to Dax. "I don't know what's wrong with that kid. He's so lazy. I don't know what to do with him. Colm's a good hand because he works at it. Sometimes he gets up in the middle of the night and ropes the fence post he can see from the porch light. Quinn doesn't understand why Colm can rope better than he can. Colm always wants to ride the snakiest horse he can find, and Quinn doesn't understand why he can't ride as well as Colm, but then he brags to everybody that he is better than Colm at everything. Maybe Quinn wants to do something different than be a cowboy," Dax commented thoughtfully, taking his hot iron out of the fire and running to brand a calf Colm had roped by the back feet, and Thomas held to the ground. John ran with his hot iron to brand a calf Kyle roped, and Ras held down. It was clear Quinn was not running for the opportunity to hold down the calves being dragged in by the ropers, but he was at least helping enough to preserve his friendship with Jim. As the women prepared a noon banquet for the branding crew, Samantha confided to Polly, "I don't know what to do, Polly. There are 3 nice boys here, and I think they all like me. What should I do?" "Don't do anything. Just be nice to all of them and see what happens," Polly advised. "Just a few days ago, I thought Thomas was the only boy in the world, but now I think I like Dawn and Kyle better," Samantha whispered. "It is good to have a bigger choice, I think. This is the first time you have been outside your hometown. Now you see how many men and boys are interested in a nice girl like you. It's all just nature. Everyone is naturally looking for a good mate, so just be patient, see what happens, and don't choose too quickly." "Did you have lots of boyfriends before you met Dax?" Samantha asked. "In school, there were several guys who chased me, but I knew them all so well that it was like they were my brothers. They were good chaps, but I didn't feel what I needed to feel to marry any of them. When I moved to Chicago, I met many men while working in the bank. Some of them waited to come to my window to do their banking. They brought me flowers and gifts, flashed their bank balances, and asked me out for dinner. I went out with a few of them, but they all wanted too much too fast and scared me off. I didn't want any of my old friends to be my lover, and I didn't want someone who wanted to move too fast. Then I saw Dax at the UF Open. I watched him from a distance. He caught me looking at him, and he tipped his hat. I was so embarrassed, but I nodded back to him. There was just something about him I wanted to get to know. It was like we had both gone there to meet each other. I came from a city and have lived in Chicago, so I have been around many men my whole life. You have met so few that it is exciting to you when you meet a new one. But on the other hand, I think these boys out west are better because the boys in the cities learn too many bad things. There was so much corruption in Chicago that I never knew if the men I met were in the mob or not. And I didn't want to take the chance my kids would be in danger if their father got out of favor with his boss. There are so many things to worry about in the cities that you probably don't have to think about with these earthy, young cowboys. I think they are all coming in for lunch now, Polly said, pointing. Just enjoy the attention and have fun with all of them. There's another sweet boy at our next stop you haven't met yet. She winked and giggled. I know you will like Josh Leader. It's fun to talk to you. I learn a lot. Thanks, Polly, Samantha said, helping scoop food into bowls and placing them on the table for the hungry cowboys. The dirty crew stopped at the water trough to wash up, and the boys threw water on each other as boys do. Colm, the worst offender, threw a bucket at Dawn and Kyle. Kyle turned quickly and grabbed Colm while Dawn jerked the bucket away from him, filled it from the trough, and dumped it on Colm's head. I'll tell my sister, he screamed. Tell her what? Kyle asked, dumping another bucket on him. Tell her what a little shit you are. Dawn twisted Colm's arm. You're not telling anybody anything, are you? Okay, truce. I'll rope and drag you later, Colm laughed. The three took off their shirts, wrung out the water, put them back on, and hurried to the table loaded with tasty food. After stuffing themselves, the branding crew rested on the grass and enjoyed the Indian summer sunshine. Samantha served each of them a bowl of strawberry shortcake with cream, teasing each one as she served it. She was learning so much from Paul. The women walked along the riverbank, enjoying the bright yellows and reds of the changing autumn foliage. Two otters played on the far bank, and a bald eagle flew over. The women all expressed their envy of Jill for the beautiful nature surrounding her home. By 4:30, all the branded cows in the field bawled, looking for their calves. The crew bathed in the river before dinner and then played horseshoes while the meal was served on the big table. It only took one call from Polly for all to fill their plates with roast beef, potatoes, gravy, garden vegetables, and peach cobbler with cream for dessert. After dinner, Kyle got out his cards, and everyone played Crazy Eights until bedtime. Thomas made a point to sit on one side of Samantha, and Dawn made a point to sit as close to her as possible on the other side. The next morning, Quigley's rose early to get their season's last bit of hay in the barn, and the MC Catron crew prepared for their move to the Lear Ranch near Florence, 15 miles downriver. The boys rode off on the horses after a sunrise breakfast. This time, Quinn rode the fourth horse after being ribbed by the other boys for not riding with them. The rest stayed behind only long enough to pack up the camp and say their goodbyes to the Quigleys. Dax drove the Chevy, and John drove the Ford truck, stopping at a general store in Stevensville so that Polly and Elaine could shop for fresh bread and incidentals for their camp kitchen. Catching up with the boys on their horses, Dax gave them final directions to the Leader place. Arvin and Josh Leader worked in their shop, sharpening a sickle bar for their MC Cormac Deering mowing machine when the MC Catron crew drove in. Arvin was anxious to get the mowing machine going so Josh could return to the field and cut hay. After introductions, the men conversed while Arvin continued to work on the sickle bar. Are the cows close in, or do we need to gather them? Dax asked. We'll need to get them closer. Did you bring any horses? Arvin asked. We have 4 cowboys with their horses following us. They should be here any minute, Dax responded. That's good. I was wondering how you were going to get all the work done, stated Arvin, looking relieved. Do you have a place where we can set up our camp? Dax asked. Let me get Josh back to work, and I'll show you a good spot. Arvin helped Josh slide the sharpened sickle bar into place, attach it to the pitman arm, and bolt the cutter bar vertically. Josh hooked the team up to the mowing machine, got on the seat, and drove the team toward the field he was mowing. Just out of the barnyard, he met 4 guys on horses who stopped him. "Is this the lighter place?" Kyle asked. "Yeah, you've got the right place." "Where did you ride from?" Josh asked. "Just from Victor this morning, but from Darby a couple of days ago," Kyle said. "Did you see the guy in the Chevy touring car?" "Yeah, just ride past the barn. They should be in the trees on the right side of the road," Josh said. "By the way, my name is Josh." "I'm Kyle. This is Dawn, Cole, and Quinn," Kyle said, pointing to each rider. "Good to meet you all. I hope I'll see you later. We don't get much company around here. Maybe we can talk this evening." Josh snapped the reins for his team of Belgians to go. "See you later," Kyle waved as the 4 rode toward the barn. They trotted through the barnyard and to the trees, where everyone was busy setting up camp. "The cows are in the field through the gate you can see on the horizon over there," Arvin said, pointing. "And you can put them in this closer field for the night. I've got to hook up the dump rake and rake my last bit of hay. I don't have time to help you. Maybe you want to be there to count them and get paid. I'll pay you for the pasture when we return to collect them in a week or so. I don't know for sure how long it will take to get the rest of the herd here, and we'd like to leave 4 horses here too," Dax said. "You get them in the corral in the morning, and we'll count them together. Then you pay me, and they're yours. You can pay me for the pasture when you take them, and we know how long they stayed and how much it will be." Arvin grumbled. "Now I've got to get to work. He's not much fun," Samantha whispered to Polly and her mother. "When we were here before, his wife never came out of the house, but the boy and girl were really friendly. I think they wanted to make friends, but Arvin kept them too busy. Every place else we have been, the people have been so friendly, but this place seems like we're not even welcome," Elaine exclaimed. "Yeah, I get that feeling too," Polly agreed. "Let's get the men fed so they can gather the cows, and we can get out of here as fast as we can," Samantha urged. The boys watered their horses, tied them to the trees in the shade, loosened their cinches, and returned to the water trough to wash off the road dust. "It's only 10:30. Let's eat a sandwich and get the cows gathered," John directed the boys. They wolfed down sandwiches and soup, while the boys tightened their cinches and mounted up. Dax and John sat in the shade and talked about the country surrounding Conifer Cliffs. As John talked, he drew a map of the area on the ground with a small branch he had broken off the tree they were sitting under. "Here is the Bitterroot," John said, drawing a long, narrow valley in the dirt. "The Bitterroot Mountains are over there." He pointed west. "The top of that mountain range is the border between Montana and Idaho. These mountains over here are the Sapphires," he said, pointing east. "We are here, near the north end of the Bitterroot Valley. The valley runs south, maybe 15 or 16 miles south of Darby." He pointed out on the map as he drew. "Going north from here is Lolo, Missoula, and further north is Arley, Ravalli, and St. Ignatius. They are all on the Flathead Indian Reservation." John continued to draw. "The Mission Mountains run south from Flathead Lake and are the eastern border of the reservation. We turn off here at the south end of the Missions and head east to Conifer Cliffs." Dax listened to John, learning the names of the areas he traveled through while driving around with Rennie, looking for cows and business opportunities. Then, John continued, drawing with his stick. "Juniper Junction is only about 15 miles east of Conifer Cliffs. It's not too far from the Clear River, near the mouth of Cold Creek. There are good, irrigated ranches on both sides of the Cold Creek drainage. You'll find low hills with good spring and fall feed for cows, but it's dry in the summer. There's no timber there. The elevation isn't much higher than your ranch, but still low enough to have fairly mild winters, at least for Montana. If you go north from Juniper Junction, you get to the little town of Cold Creek in another 15 miles or so. It's a little higher, but still not too high. That's where the mountains and timber start. 10 miles north or 10 miles east of Cold Creek is high alpine timber country with excellent natural summer feed. There's some larkspur that's poisonous to cattle, but it's not a big problem. If you keep going east, you drop down into the Clear River Valley. It's a lot like the Bitterroot. That's where the town of Falcon Falls is. Granite is about 7 miles east of Juniper Junction on the Clear River. It's still at a low elevation and has good winter range. The calves that summer in the high country are always much heavier at weaning time than the ones on the dry feed in the lower elevations. The ideal cow outfit would have high country for the summer, low country for winter, and something in between for spring and fall. Most of the higher country above 3,500 feet is timber, and there are sawmills in Falcon Falls, Granite, and Conifer Cliffs. There are a lot of little sawmills scattered around on ranches too. Dax listened intently. John shared a wealth of information for this part of Montana. Dax felt incredibly thankful for the man's help and knowledge. Do you know ranchers in all these places? Everybody from all over the country gets together in Granite on New Year's Eve for a celebration, again on the 4th of July, and the first weekend in September at the county fair in Falcon Falls. Everybody in all these places are friends. Some are loggers, some are miners, some are farmers, some are cowboys, and some are all of the above, but they are all good friends and good neighbors. I'll take you to all these celebrations and introduce you to people you should get to know, John offered. We just went to the county fair a month ago. The boys fanned out around the border fence of the huge pasture, riding and hollering, trying to scare all the cattle down the mountain. Kyle sent Jeff into the brushy draws where cattle were bedded down in the shade. It took the boys 4 hours to gather the cows and push them through the gate of the close pasture. Riding back to the barn, they heard more cows bellowing and running toward the gate. Kyle galloped back and opened the gate so they could get into the close pasture. I think we got 'em all, Kyle told Dax. A few more may come to the fence corner by morning. It might be good to ride that big field again this evening when it cools off to make sure they're all here. How many are there supposed to be, Dax? John asked. I agreed to buy 100 pairs. Arvin said he had that many separated in the field they just gathered. Let's all walk out and run them up alongside the fence and count them. There's no use in riding the big field again if we already have them all, John reasoned. Come on, boys. Run them up in the corner, and I'll count the calves. Dax, you count the cows as we let them out of the corner and down the fence line. We need to let them go by us real slow, so I don't miss any calves hidden behind a cow. Let's do it now, before they get mothered up. When the herd had been counted twice, there were 100 cows and 100 calves. I guess we can rest until morning, Dax said. No need to be looking for cows already here. The cowboys returned to camp. Kyle drove 2 metal stakes into the ground, gathered his big horseshoes, and challenged anyone and everyone to play horseshoes. Arvin Leiter's daughter, Betty, walked eagerly from her house to the campsite and introduced herself to Samantha. It was a rare opportunity to meet and visit with young people at her parents' isolated ranch. Betty, 14, was tall, thin, and wore a long, faded blue dress. Her curly, dark brown hair hung to her shoulders and framed the golden brown skin of her face. Her nose was narrow and petite. The shape of her small, amber eyes hinted of the Orient. She seemed shy but hungry for friendship. Samantha made her feel welcome and safe and introduced her to everyone. When the girls were out of hearing range, Dawn quietly elbowed Kyle and asked him if he wanted to flip for another pretty girl. Kyle whispered, "Since there are only 2, I get them both." Colm giggled. "She's too young for you guys. She's mine." The crew spent the late afternoon snacking, visiting, playing horseshoes, and relaxing in the shade. As evening approached, Betty told Samantha she needed to go home to help her mother fix supper. "May my brother and I come over after supper and visit some more?" We never get to talk to anyone except our folks, and we both enjoy making friends when we have the chance, Betty explained. You are very welcome to come over. Do you enjoy playing cards? We never have, but it sounds fun, Betty replied shyly. Don't worry, we'll show you how, Samantha said gently. It wasn't long until Betty and her brother Josh appeared at AMC Catron's camp. Josh, 19, was tall, thin, and fine-boned, much like his sister. His skin was light brown and flawless, and dark brown hair shagged over his ears, which cupped toward his narrow, triangular face. Nothing in Betty's or Josh's appearance resembled their father, who was short, stocky, and had a ruddy, red complexion. Their mother's look remained a mystery. It was a young, fun crowd. John and Elaine were the oldest at 42 and 38, respectively. Of the younger group, Dax and Kyle were the oldest at 22, with Colm being the youngest at 14. They spent the evening playing horseshoes and card games, and listening to Dax's humorous tales of his early life in Ireland and his voyage to America, where he slept with rats deep in the filthy hull of a luxury liner. Josh and Betty laughed at Dax's jokes until their rib cages hurt. They had never been exposed to people having so much fun together. Back at the Leader house, a Carrie leader quietly suggested to her husband, Arvin, "Don't you think you should go get the kids and bring them home? It's after 9 o'clock. If they have found some friends and are having fun, I don't want to bother them, but I'll go looking on them." Arvin left the house and walked down the lane to observe the party going on at MC Catron's camp. He saw his kids laughing and having fun, so he went over and was welcomed by the crowd. Dax challenged him to a game of horseshoes, which he accepted. Soon, he laughed at Dax's humor and joined the festivities. His kids were nearly in shock when they saw their dad having fun. The three stayed until the moon looked over the sapphires, and everyone was ready to retire. They all needed to get up early to do their jobs while it was still cool. At home in the Leader house, Josh hesitantly told his father, "Dad, I want to help those guys brand tomorrow." "Yeah, I want to hang out with Samantha tomorrow too, Dad," Betty chimed in. Arvin sat down on the porch. "Sit down. Let's talk," he began. "If these people find out you are half-breeds, they may not be nice to you. It has ruined your mother's life to the point that she hides from everybody. Indians don't like half-breeds because they are half-white, and white men don't like half-breeds because they are half-Indian. People don't think Indians and white should mix. That's why so many kids at your school have been mean to you. But Dad, I've had friends at school that you have never even let me bring home or let me go to their homes." "Not everybody is like you say," Josh insisted. "I'm just trying to protect you and your mom. But you're both getting old enough to do what you want, whether I want you to or not," Arvin acknowledged. "We need to get the haying done, but it did me a lot of good to see you kids have so much fun tonight. I'll try to get your mom to meet these people tomorrow, and you can both have tomorrow off, so you can do as you please. Just don't be too disappointed if things don't work out when they see your mom," Arvin explained. "I know you've been protecting us, Dad, but you've also forbidden us to do things with friends. We are lonely for people our age," Betty complained sadly. "All this has prevented me from having friends too. I understand, but the way your mom has been treated in her life just for being an Indian has made her the way she is, and it's all been passed on to you too. Let's see if these people will be your friends if they see your mom. But don't forget, the day after tomorrow, we need to get back to finish putting up the hay. Now, let's go in and tell your mom we'll all help with the branding tomorrow. You two need to make friends, and she needs to quit hiding." Carrie was reluctant, but she finally agreed to meet the women in the camp the following day, provided Betty would accompany her. Arvin said he would be nearby, helping Dax's crew on the ground, and that Josh could rope if it were okay with Dax. Before daylight, Kyle, Dawn, Quinn, and Colm began saddling their horses when Josh came out of the barn with his horse saddled and ready to go. "Are you going to help us today?" Kyle asked. "If it's okay," Josh replied. "Sure, the more the merrier," Don chimed in. Arvin walked into the camp and found Dax. Could you use some more help? He asked. Josh would like to rope, and I can help you on the ground. Sure, Dax replied. Why don't you and Josh join us for hotcakes, eggs, and bacon? Thanks. We would like that. It's about an hour earlier than we usually get started. I think my wife is still sleeping, Arvin said appreciatively. 2 more for breakfast, Polly. Dax hollered toward the makeshift kitchen on the bed of the Model T. Did you guys sleep last night? Betty asked, stumbling into camp and rubbing her eyes. We did. How about you, sleepyhead? Samantha joked. Can I help? Betty offered. You can stir this bowl of pancake batter while I turn the bacon, Elaine said. Polly cut thin strips of bacon from the side while Samantha poured maple syrup into a pan to warm over the fire. The branding crew filled their plates and sat on dead logs around the camp. Betty took her plate and walked to where Colm sat. May I sit with you? She asked. I thought you would never ask, Colm replied, chomping bacon. It's the only place left to sit, either on this side of you or the other side of you, Betty said, blushing. After breakfast, the crew headed to the barn and corral. The riders surrounded the cows and pushed them into the corral, while the ground crew tended the gates. Dax ran one gate, letting the calves in, and John ran the other gate, letting the mother cows in as the riders brought mixed bunches up to them to be separated. Once the cows and calves were in separate pens, Dax and Arvin counted them so Dax could pay Arvin the agreed amount for the stock. Dax returned to the corral, where the chute was full of cows ready to be branded. John and Colm split and stacked wood to maintain the hottest coals, turning the branding irons red hot. By 9 that morning, all the cows were branded DX, and the ropers started catching the big calves. Josh and Colm teamed up heading and heeling, and Kyle teamed up with Don. Since Quinn was not as good a roper as the rest, he practiced until he got discouraged. It was easier to help keep the fire hot, he decided. At noon, only a few calves remained to be branded, so the crew decided to finish before lunch and turn out the cows to let them nurse their calves. Then, the cowboys would be finished for the day. Betty brought her mother to the camp and introduced her to everyone. Carrie, too, enjoyed the company when she realized these folks were not threatening. Since their day's work was done, they enjoyed a relaxing afternoon, a few games of horseshoes, and good camaraderie. When Dax's crew drove out the next morning, it was a happy feeling for all, knowing they had made friends where none existed before, especially for the Leader family. John drove the 45 miles back to Darby to teach Elaine and Quinn how to drive the truck, and Dax spent this distance showing Polly how to drive his car. When they arrived at the Brisky place, Dax, John, and the women set up camp. Kyle, Dawn, and Colm caught the 4 remaining horses and rode out to gather the cows so they could get an early start in the morning. Inside the Briskys' ranch house, the women discussed meals and other matters related to the cattle drive. Annette Brisky told Polly and Elaine she planned to cook supper for everyone the evening MC Catron's crew returned with her 2 sons. By evening, the cows had been gathered into a small pasture near the corral, and everyone showed up in Brisky's front yard for supper. Sitting on the lawn eating, the group chatted about the upcoming cattle drive. The teenagers played pranks, and laughter filled the friendly evening. Dax felt the need to interrupt while the group was still gathered. Is everyone ready for morning? I want to leave at daylight while it's cool, so we need to have breakfast an hour before daylight. That means we all need to be up at 4, finished with breakfast, and have the cows headed out the gate by 5 or 5:30 at the latest. I'm not sure it will be light enough to see at 5, Kyle remarked. Let's be ready and see, Dax insisted. If we can, I would like to go the 30 miles to Victor tomorrow. There's plenty of feed in the lane. Let's go slow and let them graze along the way. No need to hurry them and run off all their fat, John threw out. We should stay in Victor the second night, not the first. We can camp wherever we end up, just going slowly. Okay, John's the boss, Dax agreed. He has a lot more experience than I do. You're the boss, Dax. I'm just telling you how I think it should be done, John said. I respect your experience, John, so we'll do it the way you think it should be done. Please don't hold back in telling me when I'm headed in the wrong direction, Dax said. I'm just here to entertain you guys. Kyle, Dawn, and John, who all had more experience than Dax, were surprised their boss would admit someone knew more than he did. It made them all respect him more. If you want to have breakfast at 4, Elaine, Samantha, and I will have to get up by 3 to have it ready. Then, can we go back to sleep for a while? Asked Polly. You'll have to ask John. I'm not running this show, Dax replied. Breakfast at 6 sounds good to me, John said.